Lisa, it's been a while. Glad to see you again.
And you as well.
So, today we're going to talk a little bit about mental health and wellness. And you are a wonderful person to talk about that. We always have lovely conversations when it comes to the mind and body connection. Mm-hmm. So, who are you? And tell us a little bit about what you do.
Okay, my name is Lisa Green, and I am a holistic practitioner. I am certified in multiple healing modalities. The first one I was certified in was Reiki, Usui Reiki. So I'm a Reiki master. After that, I got certified in another modality by Dr. Brad Nelson. He actually has two modalities that he trains in currently. The first one is Emotion Code, which deals primarily with removing trauma, trapped emotions, so to speak, that, everybody deals with in events throughout your life. The second one is Body Code, and that gets more into the medical side of healing, which is the physical body and the ailments in the body systems and bones and the body structures.
Okay, so that's a lot to unpack, and I think we're going to have a wonderful conversation today. So let's take a step back and give a little bit more context of the self. What got you into practicing this?
So I actually went to school to be a medical assistant, and I also wanted to be a nurse practitioner for future. And I began working in the medical field after I became certified as a medical assistant. And I guess that I really just didn't appreciate the way the doctors that I worked for at the time treated patients. They didn't want me to, converse with them or be personal with them, and that's your clientele. Doesn't matter if they're patients of yours and they need to be there or not. You still need to have compassion for people, and they didn't have that. They lacked empathy, and I just wasn't feeling the field. I wanted more hands-on experience and to be able to help people myself, and I just did not feel comfortable the way I saw people being treated, almost like cattle.
I think it's an unfortunate reality with the American medical system is, and I'm not saying this goes for all hospitals, but for many hospitals, there is that lack of bedside manner, professionalism, and definitely in the sense of people wanting the more holistic side, which is starting to become a much more prominent factor in it. That's completely swept under the rug when you're in a hospital or typical medical environment.
Yeah, Western
perfect word.
Medicine, which has actually been called sick care, not even healthcare anymore, because the more that people feed into this medicine side, meaning chemicals.
Yeah, we'll talk about big pharma today.
And stuff like that.
Yeah.
The sicker people become, because that doesn't help them to truly heal in the way the body requests healing.
Absolutely. So let's take a step back on that too. Can we talk a little bit about what modalities are before we start breaking each one down?
Yeah, sure. So I guess the best way to explain what a modality is it's something that you practice, something that you learn. You have to be trained in it. You may not go to school for tons of years, but it's more of a natural way of learning.
From what you've described it as, it seems like principles surrounding certain subjects.
Well, that specifically is the modality that I'm trained in.
Okay.
The doctor that I was trained under, as I mentioned before, his name is Dr. Bradley Nelson. Mm-hmm. He is Christian-based. He founded this modality through prayer alone, him and his wife. They developed this modality initially as emotion code over 30 years ago.
Okay.
And it was all based on his wife was sick. He was looking for answers. He was a doctor. He was a chiropractor. And the adjustments that he was making were repeating incidents, reoccurring. And he was trying to figure out why things in a body reoccur after you already corrected them.
Yeah.
And so through prayer and meditation, he was guided and led to emotion code initially.
So break down a little bit about what emotion code is.
So emotion code is based on a chart of emotions. So these are primarily negative emotions that people go through, you know, such as fear, anxiety, heartbreak, heartache.
A lot rooted around trauma.
Yes, it is all trauma, actually. So it's a chart of 60 emotions. There's column A and B. There's rows 1 through 6. Okay, so, and there's 5 trapped emotions in each box. And the way that you're able to find what's happening with the person is you're going to use kinesiology.
Okay.
Which people have heard of. Or you can also use what's called muscle testing. It's the same thing. So basically you use muscle testing, and it is used somewhat in Western medicine to check the body for the percentage of healing that's gone on versus where you started. So it's not widely known, but it's starting to become more widely known. And you can use kinesiology to ask questions to find the trauma that's actually lurking in different parts of the body so that you can release it.
When it comes to starting to practice this, what does that translate to? So let's say one of your clients comes to you, they're like, I really need to work on my trauma. How would you go about implementing a structured plan to help quell that trauma?
Personally, for me, I like to, let somebody speak. If they need to talk about what's going on with them, they'll mention a multitude of topics. Perhaps they're dealing with depression and anxiety. A lot of times they're like a married couple almost. Mm-hmm. But if they're dealing with that, I'll say, so what I think would be best for you initially, because it's the thing that's bothering you the worst. So that's the thing that I focus when I first meet someone, is what is the worst thing that's happening to you right now? What is making your life unbearable? Why are you here? Mm-hmm. And then I will take it from there. So if they're dealing with anxiety and depression being the worst, I start there. Say, if you had a Harry Potter wand, what would you choose to take out immediately? Yeah. And that's usually where I start. And then I'll make suggestions to them. So it's almost like I wasn't taught how to do that, but that's just something that I've developed over the last 5 years in doing this. Yeah. And I've gotten very good at it.
And you have many clients as well.
I have a lot of clients. I know what questions to ask. I know how to find the things that are bothering somebody. And most of all, I'm able to target exactly what they need. And most of the time, they don't even know what that is. Yeah. So they'll give me a bit of a backstory, what's going on with them, what suffering they're going through. Yeah. And I'll say, I think you could, it seems to me that you feel victimized in your life, like this person doesn't like you, or you're not sure why you're generating feelings of ill will towards you. Mm-hmm. And that's usually because you have what I call victim mentality. So if that's the case with a person, I'll say maybe the best thing you can do to address that right away is to get rid of the victim mentality. And we'll start there. Okay. It just, every person is different.
And there are many different variables. One thing that we've talked about before were heart blocks in people. So would that also fall into emotion code, or would that be into body code at that point?
That is actually emotion code only. Okay. The heart wall is primarily trauma, trapped emotions.
Can you tell us a little bit about the heart wall and how you explained it to me, at least?
Okay. So from the time that you're little, you go through events that are perceived as being trauma, or upsetting or triggering, whatever. And you start to, if they're matters of the heart, so to speak, you start to trap these emotions around your heart. Now, the purpose of that is it's the ego's way of trying to protect the body from being hurt. So now you get betrayed, you fall out of love, or someone breaks up with you. I mean, these are all matters of the heart. You have a huge fight with one of your parents. They're all matters of the heart, things that you take very seriously.
Yeah.
And that will bother you continually if you don't remove them.
Absolutely.
But as time goes on, people develop heart walls. So it's funny because there's a saying out there I've heard from a very young child, oh, you'll have to break down these walls in order to get close to me, and a lot of people say that and they have no idea what they're saying is so true.
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of this rings well. You haven't met Gil yet. He just came out with a book. I wish I had it. I lent it to one of my friends, How to Lose the Weight on Your Mind, Body, and Spirit. But it's honestly amazing how equal value what he has said and what you are said. And it just goes to show how serious practicing something like what you do can be beneficial to a human being in general, a soul, really. So let's get away a little bit about emotion code. Tell us a little bit about body code and the difference between the two.
Okay, so they're like night and day, but they work collaboratively together, obviously. Because a lot of the things that come up in the body code are going to have what we call associated imbalances, aka the reason, the cause, the root, so if you will. And body code just digs into everything. So you're like, okay, what's causing this? And it can go into any of the 6 major body malfunctions that is the start on body code. And you could have toxins, you could have parasites, you could have misalignments, you can have emotional things. That goes back to emotion code again, and a lot of things that deal with emotions and beliefs. And then you also have your body systems and circuits. And then the last one is nutrition. So then you're looking at, like, what are you missing nutritionally, or what do you have too much of, or are you hydrated enough each day? Because it makes a huge difference. People don't realize and often forget to drink. But water is literally the most important thing to your body.
Amen. I cannot agree more with you on that. I got cases. I just run through water bottles all day.
That's great.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your practice and when did you start doing all of this? And what was the breaking point for you on, okay, like, I know that I'm great in the medical field. I care about people. I want to do better for everyone. What was that point where you're like, I need to do this not by myself, but through my own means?
So basically, I think what you're asking me is how did I find it, or what drew me to it, or attracted me there. So I started to have a spiritual awakening, if you will. I started to learn a lot about the universe and how energy was conducted and how my thoughts are constantly producing my reality. And I was in a place that I was not happy with at all. I was silently crying out for help. I hated my job. I wasn't in the medical field anymore. I was working for Wawa. Not that Wawa's a bad place to work. I actually liked working there. But I did not like the store that I was in. I was being harassed badly by my upper management team. I was part of the management team, and they were torturing me, basically. And
trying to get you to leave the job, stuff like that.
I think so. I think more so it was my higher self was trying to make something so uncomfortable for me that I was forced to make a change. Yeah. So I started initially by looking for, I don't know, some kind of sleep hypnosis that would change the way I was thinking and perhaps like how I was feeling. And so I really started deep diving into, videos on YouTube and looking specifically for, changing your thought process while sleeping. And I started like that. So I started listening to sleep meditations and hypnosis to try and do the work while I was asleep even.
Another very prominent thing that's starting to catch hold of people right now, for sure.
It's all included.
Yeah.
Yep, it's all one thing. It's all together, and there's so many different tools that you can use. But what wound up happening is I found a motion code, and that was by accident. I started doing a lot of shadow work on myself, which, if people don't know what shadow work is,
please tell us.
It's when you dig into your spiritual mind, when you really get to know yourself, when you try and change and remove the things that you don't like about yourself. And if that requires going back and revisiting some of your trauma, then that's what you have to do.
Absolutely.
And not everybody can do this because, first of all, you have so much, it's hard to be targeted. Where do you start?
Yeah.
How do you know if what you're doing is working? If you have a lot, it's really chipping away at it little by little.
Absolutely.
And my issue was I had, from 9 years old and moving up, I had a terrible relationship with my mother. She's passed on. But
rest in peace.
Yes, thank you. But that really affected everything about the way I felt. I had a huge victim mentality. I was a big complainer.
It's your parent, though. It's the most important person in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was always that she had like a hold over me. And when she passed away, I just didn't really know what to do with myself because I was free now from that, it was holding me back. Okay, so I've moved on a lot, and I know through my best friend that's a medium that my mom is with me, and I feel her, and she has helped me so much where she wasn't able, because of her trauma when she was alive, to be that person for me. But I do believe that she's one of my guiding angels, and so she led me to a lot of these things.
It's beautiful to hear. And again, it talks about the reflection period of most of your life and coming to heal the trauma that is in your soul and redirecting all of that energy into a positive force.
Right.
And that's everything about what your business is about for people, and why I wanted to have you on. Because again, I feel like we need more people like you that are really giving people other options for healing and health in general.
Yeah.
Can I get a little bit on the philosophical side and ask, do you think there's different levels to consciousness?
I think it's all one consciousness. However, I don't think every person is in the same place, if that makes sense.
That's a great answer. Yeah, that's why I asked the question, because that's always been a debate, especially on the spirituality and spiritual health side. That's are we a collective conscious, really just broken down into many different variables rather than being separate, really.
Right. Yes, definitely 100%. We are all collectively connected. It's a concept that people have not really been introduced to in their younger years.
Of course.
And they were not brought up understanding this. And so this is something that not everybody will accept. But
another reason why I want to have you on, because it's an alternate perspective, but it's nonetheless just as real as anything else in this world.
Right, exactly. And the biggest growth that a person can have in consciousness is being self-aware. Because being self-aware will actually allow you to think about your thoughts so that you can try and avoid the thoughts that are going to produce sabotage for you in the future. Because your thoughts are constantly, always, 100% creating what is coming for you?
Absolutely. And I think that goes exactly why I asked that question, because that goes back to the shadow work idea and only certain people being allowed, or not allowed, being able to do that. It's because they've tapped into that. They've stopped their victim mentality and they're starting to look into themselves.
Right.
And that's something that we all need to do, for sure.
Yeah, being self-aware is the biggest growth in every aspect of your life, honestly, because it's also like, well, how can I be better?
Yeah.
And then you start to pay attention to your habits and what you're doing that's holding you back. How can I change those things? Not just the mindset, but to be honest with you, the energy work is like a fast pace to that.
Yeah.
Because doing the shadow work could take a very long time. Who knows how long until you're happy with where you're at.
Absolutely.
However, you can take whole events, like if you had a really traumatizing event happen to you, you can take that whole event and remove every part of the energy that's connecting you to it, that's making you think about it again, that's keeping you in that upset, reactive type mentality because of it, where you keep visiting it, you can remove them. It's not that you're going to forget. It's just that your emotional attachment is no longer connected to something that's going to hold you back.
Absolutely. To kind of equate, it's kind of talking, or how Gil would describe it as talking to your inner child and recomforting your inner child so that they aren't fearful of that past event that happened before, but they're okay with it. And your present self is helping them overcome that.
Yeah.
So before we get into your services, let's talk about a big stigma in this, and that's the whole chemical induction of mental health right now. And so could I just, why
the monster in the room.
Why holistic versus big pharma, really? That's
There's a lot of reasons, but I'm going to keep this in a neutral place.
Of course, yes, please do.
So,
but I feel like it should be spoken on, though.
Right, yeah, definitely. And I'm going to. But, so from my experience and being in both sides, both Western medicine first and Eastern medicine, following, taking pills or chemicals as a resort to solve anything that's going on in your world is not the way to go. Reason being, all pills, no matter if it's Motrin, aspirin, whatever, anything that's created chemically and ingested is toxic to our bodies. Now, yes, we have these great immune systems and detox systems, our liver, our kidneys, everything in place to, detox these things, but then you're putting your body in overdrive.
Yeah.
And the more that your body is working harder, the less that you have to bring to the table, because now you're tired, you might have chronic fatigue, you might get headaches, and, multiple other things could be happening to you all at the same time. And you have no idea why. The body becomes exhausted. It's trying to get rid of the toxins. You're taking in toxins in the air. You're eating them. You're eating parasites and don't even realize it. That's how they get into your body. You go swimming in a lake, you might pick up a parasite. There's so many different things your body already has to deal with. And
especially if you're a heavy user of certain things, you get trapped in a cycle of it.
Right.
And unfortunately, with Western medicine, you see people go into these vicious cycles of pharmaceutical use. And when they end up wanting to make a change, they don't understand that you then need to wean yourself off. And then when they just go cold turkey, they end up hurting themselves.
That could be worse for them, seizures and everything.
And, this doesn't go just for pharmaceuticals. This goes for drugs. This goes for alcohol.
Correct.
Chemicals, period.
Yes.
And I just do want to say a quick disclaimer. We are not in any way, shape, or form anti-pharmaceuticals. Like, that's not what we're talking about here. But if we can find a healthy way to deal with these things outside of, chemical use, then that is definitely one of the ways that you're going to want to go to before you go heavy on Western medicine.
Right.
Again, with Eastern medicine just being as prevalent in the East, it says a lot about there are different ways to deal with these things, for sure. So I think we'll leave it at that, and that was a perfect neutral description for sure. So tell us a little bit about your services. What are you offering to people right now, and how can you help them? How can you help them through their complete healing transformation?
Right, exactly. So I like to say that I leave people better than I found them, and that is, basically my moral compass, if you will. When people are going through anything, whether it's mental issues, mental health, physical issues, physical health, I like to help them achieve a better existence. So regardless of what that may be, there is no limit to what I'm able to address. And I mean everything. So you can start with, you can start with mental health. That's where I usually like to start. Mental health and physical health. Once you get a person into a good place in both of those senses, you can actually start to do energy work to attract the things you desire in your life.
So you do both emotional and body code work?
Yes.
Wonderful. How would you, let's say I wanted to use your services, and I definitely want to try. So how would you start with me? Just to give people an example of what they would be walking into, or a new customer of yours would be walking into.
If you're not coming to me with like a crazy health issue, like, wow, I'm in pain or whatever, and you're coming to me like, I want to see what this is all about, how I can improve my life, I would say, okay, so reflect on your life and tell me what you would like to change about it.
Yeah. So what I've talked to you about before, I'll open up about, is my relationships.
Right.
And that's why I mentioned heart walls before. Haven't had the best relationships in my life. And while it has led me to definitely become a better person, because I've dealt with my trauma to a certain extent.
Right.
I have some hang-ups that I can definitely admit. So, so let's just what would you do if I say I wanted to get rid of one of my heart walls? How would that process go about?
Well, so it's a heart wall, just so you know. So it's actually the heart surrounded by trauma emotions. Mm-hmm. So if you picture the heart in the middle and then you see one after another, eventually the wall becomes really big, depending on how many matters of the heart you've dealt with. So what I would suggest to you specifically would be to start with your heart wall, because by opening up your heart, now you're willing to accept love, feel love, where it may have been distorted before. If you were thinking about the heart with the heart wall, think of it like this. If you had all of those trapped emotions, one after another, layered up, and someone walked up to your heart and said, love, right at your heart. How many of those emotions does love as a frequency, a word that was just said to you, how many of those frequencies does it have to go through of negativity to get to your heart? By the time it gets to your heart, that love is now super distorted. Yeah. It doesn't even sound the same.
But it will. All right, so a healthy heart would accept that, just like if you were walking by someone on the street and they smile and you smile back. Mm-hmm. So and then you just gave the opposite of, they might be like, why would she be saying that to me? Like, yeah. But how much of this is holistic Eastern medicine, and how much therapy ties into this? Because I feel like there's a specific amount of verbal variables that fall into this practice as well, and talking things out and being open.
Well, there are, and I do a lot of my work remotely, and most of my sessions are basically email sessions.
Okay.
This way, there's no limit for my client as to when I can work on them.
Yeah.
They can be at work, they could be sleeping, it doesn't matter what they're doing, I can still do the work, and it's gentle enough that it's not going to put them out of commission at all. You know, but as far as the reason that I said about the heart wall and the love being distorted is because that's what people are feeling. Instead of feeling true, genuine, open-hearted love, they're feeling distortion.
Yeah.
It's not the same. It's crazy because it doesn't just help you with love. It also allows you to attract better experiences, more money.
Yeah.
Perhaps new opportunities that you never would have been introduced to if you had heart wall. Because a lot of times the heart wall is going to block your inner voice. Your inner voice is going to say, oh yeah, that's great. Yeah. And your heart wall is going to be like, I don't know, I'm a little scared. And it doesn't allow you to act of the heart. You know, so once you remove that, the heart opens up, and it's this beautiful thing that you can't even remember what that felt like. Yeah. Until after you live without the heart wall.
Yeah. I mean, again, these are all things that we should be at least talking about. Yeah. You know, much more so be practicing. So let's say, so I think we'll leave it at that, because that was a very graceful explanation of everything that you do. So if someone is looking to get your services, where could they find you at?
Well, I do have a Facebook page that people can follow me on, and I have my Etsy store, which is primarily what I go through. Okay. I list my services through my Etsy store, and then people can read about the service. Everything is explained in great detail, down to what will take place, how long their healing/processing time will be, what to expect, if anything, and that they can always contact me to ask questions. I give them a detailed report of everything that was found, either emotionally or in a physical sense, using the body code, you know, different misalignments or, you know, fascia issues within the tissue, whatever it is. And so I also screenshot the body code explanations in my app. So this way they have an explanation right from a doctor's mouth, because that's what is shown in the app. It tells you exactly what it is, what's found, why it happens, and so forth. So it takes a lot of the explanation out of it for me. It's like a whole package, if you will. I did the session.
Dictionary.
Yeah, I did the session. I told them what I found, and I gave them every explanation as to why they had what they had, how it was corrected, and what to expect moving forward.
I appreciate services like yours because, again, it's an alternative for people that want this kind of healing in their life. Yeah. So my final question for you is, what do you think about our in-person network that you've been a large part of up to this point so far?
I think it's really cool. I think that it's a great idea and a concept that you had to bring to the table to, you know, kind of incorporate people, because you don't see a lot of community affairs in Hamilton, I guess, you know?
It's very secretive.
Yeah, everyone just does their own thing.
Yeah.
You know?
And, you know, we love having you, and you're always welcome back on the podcast.
Thank you so much.
So we'll have all of her information in the description below. If you guys could remember, give us a like, comment who you want to see on next, and subscribe to our channel for more amazing people in the Mercer County area. Lisa, again, thank you.
Thank you.